Hi there guys, Tom Voyage here. Now in this video we're going to be showing you how to cook this massive 20-inch New York style pizza. We're going to be using the Ooni Koda 2 Max and I'm going to share my recipe with you. Let's go. So in this video I'm going to be talking you through the recipe of how we make this pizza dough. I'll also take you through some of the accessories that you may need or may find useful, and finally how to set up your oven. So let's get started by doing the recipe. Now this recipe will give you two 840 gram dough balls. Now I know they sound massive, but bear in mind we are making a 20-inch pizza here, so you do need a big dough ball. So for this recipe you'll need 1,000 grams of a strong white bread flour, 620 grams of cold water, 30 grams of salt, 30 grams of olive oil, 10 grams of honey, and 2.6 grams of instant yeast, or you can use 7 grams of fresh yeast. So first we're going to add our flour into the bowl, and then mix the yeast with the water to get it dissolved, and then slowly add the water into the flour as the mixer mixes up the recipe. Once you've added half the water, we're going to then add the olive oil and the honey. Then we can increase the speed on the mixer slightly, and as those ingredients start to mix together, we can slowly add the rest of the water. We're gradually going to increase the speed of the mixer until all our ingredients start to clump together and pull away from the sides of the bowl. After about 10 minutes, our dough came together to form a nice solid ball in the middle of the bowl. Now this recipe can be mixed by hand, of course, but it's just going to take that little bit of extra work. So once our dough's ready, we're going to take it out of the bowl. I like to wet my hands a little bit to make that process easier. Then we're going to cover it with the bowl and rest it for 20 minutes. Then we're going to perform 3 stretch and folds. So every 20 minutes after that, we're going to remove the bowl, stretch the dough, fold it on itself a couple of times, and then put the bowl back. So once we've done that process, it's time to split our dough in half. Now I'm using a scale to measure 840 grams each, so roughly split the dough in half, make them into a nice ball shape, and then proof them in the fridge for around 36 to 48 hours. Once your dough's done proofing in the fridge, remember to take it out of the fridge 2 to 3 hours before you want to cook, because we want this dough to be at room temperature. And then your dough should look like 2 huge dough balls like we've got here. So I wanted to give a shout out to Lewis Pope from Ooni, who was the one who originally gave me this recipe. I've tweaked it slightly to make it my own, but the original credit goes to him. So next I want to talk about some of the accessories that you may find useful when cooking a pizza of this size. So first up, we've got the large pizza peel. This is a 16-inch pizza peel. Now ideally you can use a 20-inch pizza peel, but I've already got hundreds of pizza peels. I didn't want to buy an extra one, and this one works just fine. Next, we've got the turning peel. This just makes things a little bit easier when turning the pizza in the oven, and also for removing the pizza screen. Next up, I feel like I say this in all my videos, but an infrared thermometer is always a good idea to check your stone temperature. And today we're going to be using some of these. These are called pizza screens. Now we've got the 20-inch one here, a 16-inch one. That's just a different size. We're going to be using the 20-inch one today. Now the reason I like these is, first of all, because it gives you a nice round area to stretch your pizza out on. When you're stretching a pizza up to the 20-inch side, it can be hard to maintain that circular shape, so these help. Also, when you put the pizza in the oven, we're going to be leaving it in for a lot longer than your Neapolitan style pizza. These help to create an air gap between the stone and the dough, and help to create that extra browning crispiness that we want on the base of our pizza. And finally, it also makes it much easier to move around. If I was trying to put a 20-inch pizza without any sort of screen on here, it would flop off the sides and make it very difficult to handle. So having it on the screen makes it nice and easy to maneuver around. And last but not least, we're going to need a pizza oven big enough to hold a 20-inch pizza. Now I'm using here the Ooni Koda 2 Max. It's Ooni's biggest pizza oven, and you can see here, I think that's about 24 inches wide, or the whole oven's 24 inches wide, so it's more than big enough to cook a pizza of this size. Now before we stretch our pizza dough, we need to make sure our oven is up to temperature. Now remember, unlike Neapolitan style pizza, which needs that 450 degrees to 500 degrees centigrade heat in the stone, these pizzas are going to cook longer at a lower temperature. So I like to aim for a stone temperature somewhere around 375 degrees. Now, unlike the 60 to 90 seconds that it takes to cook a Neapolitan style pizza, we're going to be cooking these pizzas for around 8 to 10 minutes. Now, during that time, I often turn the oven completely off because there's enough heat within the oven to still continue cooking that base of the pizza without overcooking the top of the pizza. So it's quite a chilly day today, so I'm expecting this oven to take around 20 to 25 minutes to come up to temperature. So in that meantime, if you are enjoying this video, please remember to like and subscribe. If you've got any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. And if you wanted to purchase one of these ovens for yourself, you can check also the links in the description. It doesn't cost any more money, but it helps me out with a bit of commission so we can carry on making these kinds of videos for the future. Right, let's get our dough stretched. So our oven is lit and almost up to temperature, so now it's time to stretch the dough. So I've used a load of semolina in here to help stretch our pizza. I'm going to put some on our board as well. Just move that round so we've got a nice base. Go in with the spatula, pick it up and plop it down on top there. So then we turn it over and we're going to start with our fingers in the middle, just pushing out. Now we don't want to make too much of a crust on this. Don't worry about any of those air bubbles. Now the reason we don't want to make too much of a crust on this is because we don't want those big puffy crusts that you see on Neapolitan style pizza. So just keep working your way around. Don't be worried by the fact that this is a much larger dough. The concept is the same. Like I say, if you see any air bubbles, you can just nip those because we don't want too much air coming out into this crust. Now we're going to pick up our dough, just pass it between our fingers, let gravity stretch it out for us like that. Now I know it's already looking quite big, but remember it's 20-inch pizza, so there's a lot of work to put in. So once we're about this size, we're going to grab our pizza screen and put that underneath the dough so we can measure our size of pizza. So actually we're not far off, but with the pizza screen, what this is going to allow us to do is get that nice circular shape. So I'm just going to pull the edges here, stretch it out a little more so it reaches all the sides. And this is why we need our dough to be at room temperature, because if you try and stretch cold dough, you're going to find it resists a lot and it's really hard to stretch. Now if you want to create more of a crust, you can do. I've done quite a small crust on this one. Now that it's on the screen, it makes it much easier to move around. So now let's go on with some of our tomato sauce. Now there's loads of different recipes of tomato sauce. I'm just using a pre-made one out the can today. We want to spread out a nice layer of tomato, leaving some just shy of the crust. As you can tell, I'm still not at the level of those New York pizza chefs that just do it in one swift motion. But hey, we're all learning together. So next we're going to go on with a bit of our Parmesan. Now remember, these 20-inch pizzas take a lot of ingredients, so we used almost a full can of sauce on that one. Nice even covering. Next we're going to use our grated mozzarella. Now I prefer to grate the mozzarella myself. We want a dry mozzarella, not the wet ones that you get in the packet. Now the reason I grate this myself is because the pre-grated stuff comes with a potato starch on it, and sometimes I find that that burns when it's in the oven, so always recommend to grate this stuff yourself. So a nice even helping all the way across the pizza there. And then finally, to finish it off, we're going to have a nice helping of oregano, or oregano for my American brothers and sisters out there. And there we have our New York style cheese and tomato pizza ready for the oven. And as you can see, it's nice and easy to move around because we've left it on that pizza screen. So before we get our pizza on the oven, you can see here that's recording a temperature on the stone of 378 degrees, so exactly where we want it. So we're going to first of all turn our oven down to the lowest setting on both sides. Then we're going to get our pizza peel and pop this into the oven right in the center. And now at that lowest setting, we're going to leave this for about 1.5 minutes before we do a quarter turn, because there's burners on both sides of this oven. So we'll do a quarter turn at 1.5 minutes, leaving it in the oven for a total of 3 minutes. So we're at the 3-minute mark now. We did it a quarter turn at 1.5 minutes just to create that evenness all the way around. Now the next stage is to remove that screen and cook the pizza finely on the stone. So what I'm going to do is just slide my peel in between the pizza and the screen just to make sure it's released properly. Pull it back and then push it forwards, leaving a little edge of the pizza screen there. I'm just going to use a couple of these grabbers. If you haven't got the grabbers, you can use the heat-proof glove. Sometimes it's a bit tricky, this bit. Just going to lift that up. Remove our screen. And then we're going to leave this for around 5 to 7 minutes, turning it frequently. One other step I forgot to mention, I'm going to turn the oven completely off. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I want that base to have a real nice bake on it. And if I leave the flames on, I feel like the top cooks too quickly. So I want a nice even bake all the way along. So we're going to make a few regular turns with this pizza just to make sure it's cooking nice and evenly. So you can bring it out the oven, turn it with your hand, pop it back in, and just keep checking on that crust and checking on the base to make sure it's a nice even brownness all the way around. So partway through the cook, what I like to do is just lift up the edge and check the brownness or the doneness of the base of the pizza. So we're right about the 8-minute mark now. You can see we're getting some nice brown colour on the crust here, and the underneath is looking good too. I'm going to leave it for maybe 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes longer, just because I like a nice brown bake on the crust of my pizzas. So I'm going to turn the flames back on just for the last 30 to 40 seconds of cooking, just on a medium heat, to get that last little bit of brownness on the top of the pizza. Keep your eye on it to make sure it's not burning or your cheese isn't getting too crispy or burned on the top. And then in a few seconds, we'll be ready to see what this bad boy looks like. All right, we're just about ready. So I'm going to go in with my pizza peel, and because this is a more crispy pizza, we should be able to support that okay. And oh my God, look at this. You can see here, we've got a nice brown crust. It's quite heavy actually, so I'm just going to pop it onto this. We've got these aluminium trays or plates that are ideal for pizzas of this size. So you can see here, we've got a nice browning of the crust. Our toppings have melted, but they're not burned. And there we have a 20-inch New York style pizza cooked on the Ooni Koda 2 Max. So it's quite hard to show you the base because of the size of this pizza, but if I just lift that up, you can hear it's a nice crispy crust on there. And look at the underneath there, there's a good bake on that as well. But let's get this onto the table, we'll cut a slice and take another look. Okay, so time to cut into this. So I want you to listen out here for this crunch. You hear that? I don't know whether it's too windy here today. Try again, I'll get closer. So what we've created here with this dough is a very crispy base. That's because the hydration was just around 62%. And we cooked it for longer. All right, so let's take a closer look at one of the slices of these pizzas. But before we do, if you have enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. So you can see we've got a bit of a flop on there. So if you wanted a more crispy base, you can leave it on for even longer. We take a look at the underneath. You can see that's a nice color on there. So now we're going to fold our pizza in half like that. That's absolutely outstanding. It tastes great. It's almost like it's so simple, just the cheese and tomato. Great bake on the bottom, and these kind of pizzas are ideal for parties. I mean, this will feed maybe 4 or 5 people, so you can cook a couple on this kind of oven and have enough food or snacks for a party. So thanks very much guys for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please remember to like and subscribe. If you've got any questions, you can leave them down below. And as I said before, if you wanted to buy one of these ovens or any of the accessories you've seen me use here today, you can use the links in the description too. It doesn't cost any more money, but it helps me out with that commission so we can carry on making these kinds of videos. Thanks very much for watching, and please join us next time for more pizza making videos. Right, I'm gonna finish this slice.